Merry Christmas or happy middle of December, everyone. We're almost at those holiday times, but welcome to another exciting edition of the Community Chorus Show. My name is Ryan Saunders, the very proud and festive executive director of the Chorus of Westerly. Tonight we have a really special show for you, and we'll bring our guests on in just a minute here. But my friend, the music director of the Chorus of Westerly, Andrew Howell, is actually preparing a lecture right now, so he can't join us today. So he's letting me fly solo with 4 other people. I don't quite know what that means. But before we bring them in here, I'd like to thank our partners at the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts for all of their support of Chorus of Westerly activities this year and every year. And of course, the state of Rhode Island too for ongoing support this month for special holiday programming that the Chorus is creating thanks to recent grants from the Rhode Island Department of Commerce and the CARES Act funding, which is really wonderful. So keep watching online. You'll learn a lot more about it. Also, thanks to our partners at the Blue Mitten Thrift Shop on Main Street for making all of our Chorus of Westerly activities go. They're doing some fabulous work over there. And if you're looking for some last-minute holiday gifts, please head on down to the Blue Mitten Thrift Shop. Tell them the Community Chorus Show and the executive director sent you. With that said, I'd like to welcome in our co-hosts for today. Let's bring in festively decorated around the world, around the globe, Aimée Blanchette, Andrew Ledestri, and Mike Freitas. Bring them on in, Ben. Yes. Wassail all over the town. Well, Michael is just a blur of color down there.
I just like to mess with you.
I love it. Well, hello. Well, look at this. This is what a festive looking group you all are there. Andrew, you're looking like you just ripped off a curtain somewhere and put it around.
I'm an elf.
You are some sort of elf on a shelf, man. I would have nightmares about. I'm kidding.
Oh my god, I gotta climb right up here.
That's can you be an elf on a shelf for hire and go to people's homes? Except put masks on and stay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Aimée, you're looking lovely up there today. I love the scarf.
Oh, thank you. You know,
classing us up as always. And Michael, you just look like you just got off of the frozen tundra up at the North Pole.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming in with your cat pants around your neck, and those are
I got incidentally these cat pants, these trousers were gifted to me on our Germany tour in 2017 by Harvey Blanchette in Dresden. So I put these right on in Dresden with my first cat shirt, which was the yellow one from Deb Old Yeller, and
I like it. Yeah. Do you have your virtual background on for some reason? Because you seem to
but I'm not sure what's going on, but I like
it in there. There's I feel like I can actually see. It looks like a picture from Germany while we're at that, but
I don't think we have virtual backgrounds on this, but I don't know.
Hey, yeah, it still looks good.
Go with it. Yeah.
Well, I hope you've all been pretty well, and we got some snow locally here recently. Andrew, you're actually in Massachusetts these days, so you got some of that snow.
Massachusetts right now. We don't have anything on the ground, but we're right on the water, and it's been pretty blustery the past couple of days.
Gotcha. So, all right. Well, we have are you 3 excited for our special guest tonight? Because we have.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's the right way to go. In fact, I was saying earlier that I feel like I know a lot about our next guest, but also a lot I don't know about our next guest. Meaning we've experienced one life with her, but not the other side. So I wrote her an introduction. Whether it's all true or not, I don't know, but it sounded good when I typed it up, so I'm going to read it for you here. So, friends in the Chorus family, we are super excited tonight to welcome to our show one of the Chorus of Westerly's most accomplished members, both musically and in the scientific community, our dear friend, the fabulous soprano Marty Minich. Marty was singer 1,141 in the Chorus of Westerly. That's when you joined, Marty. Beginning her tenure in the organization in 1985, which memory serves, Aimée, that's when you began singing, right?
Yeah, we started the same year.
We have numbers? I want to know my numbers so bad.
Well, you're after 1141. I can tell you that. Michael is number 1. He's number 1500 in your scorecard, number 1 in your hearts. Anyway, so we joined the next year. So we've been in kind of the chorus family all together, really, if you think about it. But with the chorus of Westerly, Marty has sung in over 450 concerts. I think it's 455, Marty, because I was counting them up today. You can thank Pam Young for having really good records. She's done countless 12th night shows and church services and sung on tour with us. She's done really everything. Marty is a former board member and has been a faithful volunteer for the chorus and so many different projects. I think was helmed the service operations of the Peasants' Feast for as long as I can remember. She labored at Ogons. She labored on the building. She worked at chorus work parties, auctions, galas, fundraisers, you name it. Marty did it, often with her friend Sue Bainbridge too. And she was always willingly and enthusiastically there. Always great fun at whatever we did. She's just been a constant in our chorus family for generations. We all love you, Marty. I hope you know that. And just an amazingly wonderful human being. But outside of her chorus singing life, she's also been singing everywhere else too. She's performed faithfully in many other choruses, including the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Chorus and the Anglican Singers, with whom she's also toured abroad with several times and done residencies at English cathedrals. Professionally, Marty is now retired for several years, but this comes after a long and amazing career as a chemist, working primarily at Pfizer, or maybe exclusively at Pfizer. She can tell us that later. Her work there was innovative and impactful on the entire scientific community, and I can't even begin to describe in my own words what she did because I was trying to read about it and I didn't understand the words in which I was reading. So Marty can do that either. However, Marty, a quick Google search of you reveals that your name is on no fewer than 13 patents for inventions as a result of your work through Pfizer. Wow. Mike is not on any.
Yeah.
Combined, the three of us have 0. And her work has been featured in at least 30 major trade publications, and nearly 500 other scientists and trade magazines have cited or referenced your work. I hope you're getting the royalties for that, because that's what the internet told me. She might be the smartest person we know, but we know a lot of smart people. But let's put her in at least the top 10 there. In her retirement, beyond singing, Marty has been traveling extensively on paths that are sort of, local, and we know them, some to Europe, things like that, but she's also gone off the path a lot to places as far away as Antarctica. So it is with this long introduction of everything that Marty is that we welcome one of our favorite ladies to the Community Chorus Show. Bring her in bed, Marty Minich.
Hi. Shucks, folks, I'm speechless.
That was mostly correct, right?
Mostly. It made me sound like I was a little bit more distinguished scientist than I actually was, but I was sort of a really good high-tech cook.
Really good high-tech cook.
Yeah.
What did you cook?
I like that. We're all cooks in different ways. Well, I feel like scientifically you were ahead of us. So we really we're so grateful that you're here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Pfizer coming up in some of your work, because we're really curious about that. But meanwhile, our elf on the shelf here, Andrew and Amy and the reindeer, look, they're giving themselves new names right now. This is what happens when you put them on a call. We're just gonna talk to you and enjoy our glasses of wine and see how things are going. So we all kind of met you when we were 7-8 years old. So you basically have known us our whole chorus life, and you came into the chorus when we were coming into the chorus. So our memory, while it's different for our chorus experience, stretches that similar period of time. But we'd really love to know about you before you arrived at 119 High Street, what your life was like growing up, how you got into your career, just what was like life before you walked in 1985.
Well, I was born and raised in Ohio, in a little town in northern Ohio called Vermillion, about 35 miles from Cleveland, kind of a blue collar kind of place. Most of the people in town worked for Ford. And it wasn't a great artistic haven. I used to kid around with my sister that the only reason they had a high school band was because the football team needed somebody to play the halftime shows. But my mother was very into classical music. This was instrumental music. I did not grow up with a choral background. And I rarely had room in my schedule for singing, so I was not in the choir in high school or anything like that. But But I always loved music. I really loved it, even though I was rather ham-handed on the piano. And of course, I knew I could carry a tune, but I had no idea I had a voice worth developing because, it sounded like a boy soprano, and, only opera singers took lessons, so.
Right.
But I was interested in a lot of other things too, and one of them was chemistry. I had a really fabulous chemistry teacher in high school. So I ended up getting a scholarship to Wittenberg in Ohio and got a chemistry major there, and decided I didn't have enough lab experience. So I went to the University of Minnesota and got my master's.
Oh.
And after, well, I didn't want to commit to a PhD until I'd gotten out there and was actually able to try it in the field, because in those days they could still not hire you because you were a woman. So I didn't get, but anyway, I worked for about a year in Minneapolis in a little plastics company, decided I didn't want to do plastics. So I came east to New Jersey to Roche, and I was there for nearly 8 years. And then I was laid off in '85, and that's how I got to Pfizer.
Wow.
But so it was, and I did my major activity in New Jersey was the company theater group, but I also sang in a couple of community choruses. It was pretty much sign up and sing. Westerly was the first group that I ever had to audition for, except for a women's chorale that I did in college for a year. I sang first alto, if you can believe that. But anyway, so I came up here, and I had the great good fortune to, I don't know if any of you guys remember Sally Lackman. She was in the alto section, a second alto. She also worked with me at Pfizer, and she was the one that got me to come to my first Westerly concert, which was it was less than a month after I'd moved up here. And so I heard the chorus do the Bach B minor Mass in 1985.
Wow.
And I remember sitting there in the hall and seeing these people come in, and the first thing that struck me was, oh, there's a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And the next thing that struck me as they got up on the risers was, these people are going to sing this entire piece without sitting down. But it was fabulous. And Sally introduced me to Bunky at the after concert party. And I informed him I was a second soprano, because that's what I'd sung in New Jersey. The first sopranos were the people who couldn't do anything but melody. And so anyway, and I auditioned the following year and got in. Judy Beecham called me up and said I'd made it. I showed up for the first rehearsal and checked the roster, and I wasn't on it. And I was like, oh. No. And then I discovered Bunky had put me in the first sopranos, and that's how I got in the first soprano.
Promoted.
So anyway, that's how I got here. I was 34.
Wow. So that's quite a tale. So you really didn't. So, but you were, now maybe I'm incorrect with all of this, but you're pretty good. You're pretty good with your. I mean, you're a very good singer, but you're pretty good sight reading and everything else like that too. Is that true? Did you feel that coming in, or were you teaching yourself all of this on the fly?
No, I was a pretty good sight reader. I think I did have some piano lessons when I was a kid. Yeah. And only a couple of years. And for a little old lady church organist who would come to the house for $1 a lesson, and didn't make me learn any fingering. So of course, as soon as I got where I needed some technique, I didn't have it, but I did learn to sight read, and I don't know, I was pretty good at it. So it's just something I've been able to do. So I have a kind of a blendable voice, and between that and being a good sight reader, I've usually been able to hold my own in a group. But I tell you, that first rehearsal at Westerly, I got in there and I was like, oh my God, I am definitely middle of the bell-shaped curve with these people.
Well, that's okay though. I mean, I think it's certainly
fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who do you remember, Marty, from that? Sorry, I was gonna say, who do you remember from that first season, from those first rehearsals? Who sticks out as someone who was a contact for you as a new person?
Well, as a new person, of course, one thing about the rehearsals, the only time you really got to hobnob, of course, was at break. And so most of the people that I really met that first year were other sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
There was Judy Beecham and Gert Smith and, Janet Kitchen and, Lucille Davis was still there. There were, a number of other people. And of course, the one that I was most taken with, of course, was Bunky. I've been very amused that the rest of the people you've talked to so far are people who came up from the kids program, and even Peter Needman at his age still calls Bunky Mr. Kent. And you all do it. I first called him George. Eventually, I got to call him Bunky. But I remember Mary Aiello. Do you remember Mary? She used to say, yeah. She called him Georgie. He had been her paper boy when he was a little boy.
There's such a, with you saying what you're saying, Marty, there's such a surreal sort of the feeling to this whole thing. As you've been talking, I've actually been thinking to myself, for all the years we've all known each other, I've never really thought of it from your perspective. I think of all of us as having grown up with this piece, and yet you not only sort of coming into it as an adult, but at the same time that we did, where we've sort of grown up into an experience that you came into as an adult, and so for us, I can easily say that we grew up with this as part of our family, and clearly you are part of our family. And was it the same experience for you coming into the chorus as an adult and meeting all these people in this way, and just feeling sort of like you're home and you're with family, and that it's all that part of you're part of a bigger thing that way?
It's certainly become that way. Yeah. I mean, when I first joined, my real core group when I was in New Jersey, even though I enjoyed the music, the singing groups, my real core group there was my theater group. And it was really, and of course, it took but I did not come into the chorus expecting that it was going to be what it became to me. I thought it was going to be, kind of like the groups I sang with in New Jersey. I enjoyed them, but my life was going to, but I tell you, within the first couple of rehearsals, I never even bothered joining the theater group at Pfizer, because I realized that this was going to be much more than I'd ever thought that it was. And I just, and of course, I was so impressed with Bunky, and I've learned so much from him. And of course, later on, when I got a chance to meet some more of the people in the chorus, of course, that's where I first met my best friend, Susan. It took a little while because she was in the alto section. So, we had to have some things where we were kind of thrown together. But it was, we really got to know each other for the first time, actually, on the tour to Italy. It was the following year. Mm-hmm.
So you got in there, and you were in there 85. So you immediately went on tour too. What was that?
Oh, right.
Tell us a little bit about your experience going on that 87 tour.
Oh, it was something. It was, first of all, I have very long legs, and I don't fit into an airplane seat very well. And I did not get one wink of sleep the entire night on the 9-hour flight to Rome. And by the time we got there, I was having psychotic fantasies that I had died and gone to hell, and my punishment was I had to sit in an airline seat forever. But it was, but of course, with the tour, I mean, we were tired practically all the time, and beastly hot in a lot of places. But it was fabulous. It was just, it was. I was a little disappointed in our experience in Spoleto, because the guy that conducted us was such a, can't say this on the air, but it was, and I kind of felt like the orchestra wasn't taking it seriously. It was sort of like doing the same thing. But of course, we were also singing some fabulous music, the Dvorak Requiem. But once we got off on our own, doing the Bach Mag and the Haydn Lord Nelson, I mean, to be able to sing all this stuff in these fabulous places was just, it was worth it, putting up with the heat and the discomfort and all that. Of course, I was a lot younger then too. It was a little easier.
Do you think that tour would have been even better, or especially Spoleto, if the new trebles and Andrew and Ryan and I were part of it, or we didn't travel?
You're fishing.
Oh my God, we would have been such terrors.
You would have gotten the entire chorus ejected from Italy.
Probably.
Well, I tell you, I tell you, it was fun enough at the ones. Aimee, do you remember the Three Amigos?
I do.
It was Matt Cornelian, Ben Parent, and
Scott Stoddard.
Stoddard, running around in sombreros. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there are some consistents in the chorus of Westerly, aren't there?
Yeah.
It is fascinating to look at that, and I'm grateful for you to talk about that trip because, again, we were Andrew, Michael, and myself. We were all in the chorus. Obviously, we weren't on that tour, but now that I've gone through the process as a professional, planning tours and running the chorus, I look back at that one, and there are so many red flags or things that worry me, or I'm like, I cannot believe, as opposed, even I know none of us run, Aimee was, but 1981, which was a little bit more fly by the seat of their pants. But of all of the tours the chorus did, that one, the length, the venues, the heat, the places you stay in, the airlines, there's so many things. I mean, it's everyone has told me how magical it was, but from the back end, I can kind of always hear Henry and Lynn and those people, like, I can't imagine, like, there were so many things going on that. And then I've often come down to think, boy, we could never do that today. No. We could never pull off.
I remember Lynn talking about how she would be like scrambling eggs in a pan at the side of the road to feed people on the way out to different parts of things. Oh my God. Yeah, how long, Ryan, you just said the tour. How long was that tour? Was it longer than a normal tour?
It was 3 weeks because we had to commit 1 week for just Spoleto. Wow. And we had 2 weeks on our own. And as a matter of fact, we postponed the tour for a year because of terrorist concerns. We were supposed to go in 86. We end up going up in 87.
Wow.
But I was fairly new at Pfizer and I still had only 2 weeks vacation. So I had to save a week from the previous year and use that in my entire vacation from 1987. And so I couldn't do, anything extra for the rest of the year, but that's how it was. But it was, we did things on that tour you never in a million years could do post 9/11. I mean, I was actually in charge of packing a bunch of extra suitcases for stuff for the group. I mean, like jars of peanut butter, tablecloths, coolers full of stuff. We brought out this great big thing. I think it had been the lid of a dishwasher, a commercial dishwasher, and we brought it along so that we could put charcoal in it in case we needed a charcoal burner.
Oh my God, Ryan! Can you imagine a world? Like, can you imagine a world where you would run a tour now and you'd have to pack suitcases of peanut butter?
Yeah, no way they would let that stuff on the plane now.
Well, first of all, no, because no one can have peanut butter anymore. It'd have to be sun butter or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I mean, it's frankly, when the chorus and Marty was there too. When the chorus was in Budapest in 2014, we had progressed on that tour. The hotel quality went down. Like we started at the top and we went backwards. But it was the best we could do and afford, and it was still a 4-star hotel. But if that hotel in Budapest, if you recall, was built during the communist era, it was very blocky green. It was functional. It was a functional hotel, like a good pair of jeans, but there's nothing to write home about. And people were. I got an earful from a few people about the quality of that hotel. And all in my mind, I kept thinking is like, this group could never make it on like the 87 or 81 or 95 tour.
You guys were in the Instituto, the kids, but
yes.
I was with some of the older women. And I mean, even the place that we were, I can't remember the name of the place, but we had a community bathroom that about 15 or 20 people had to use. And then the room that we were, of course, this was in Venice, and it was stinking hot, and the windows were right at alley level. They opened right onto the alley, so there'd be people walking by 2 feet from your bed. And we had a king bed that Sue Bennick was sharing with her friend who had come with her. Adrian, was that her name? Anyway, and then Evelyn Askew and Susan Bainbridge and I were on cots around the edge of the room, and there was a little cold water sink in there, which was right above Susan Bainbridge's head. If she'd had a nightmare and sat up in the middle of the night, she would have knocked herself out. It was something. But at least we had running water, which you didn't always at the Institute.
That is correct. We did not.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
I feel like we've heard this now in several shows about that in particular.
Yes, the Instituto is notorious.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
isn't that
water stories.
sort of segue? So with the chorus in general, so you've done lots of things. I've seen pictures. I've watched you do lots of things. You've been at camp. You've been Peasants Feast. What are some of the other interesting volunteer jobs or assignments or tasks that you have had to do over the years that maybe others in a chorus don't have to perform?
Well, I can remember being up on the roof of the boathouse at Ogant's while Charlie Kitchen was trying to explain to me how to put the shingles on. And I was up there hanging on with one hand and hammering with the other hand, and I got swarmed by a bunch of black flies. And that's when I started taking my bug hat up there with me. Of course, that was Memorial Day weekend, which was notorious for black flies. And during the time I was on the board, I was supposed to spearhead, well, at least the beginning of trying to organize the archives for the chorus.
Yes.
All of those posters, those framed posters that are hanging around in the hall.
Oh, yeah.
Susan Bainbridge and I put those together. That was
I didn't know who did that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and but I tell you, the archives, of course, it was stuffed in filing cabinets and stuff over where we used to store the 12th Night stuff.
Right.
And Ann Utter also had a whole bunch of stuff in her basement. And I remember going over one day and talking to her. And this woman never threw anything away. She showed me from her desk a piece of paper that was the original piece of paper that she was doodling on during the organizational meeting for the Chorus of Westerly in 1959. She had saved her doodle paper.
That's awesome.
Oh, I am so the person who's like, all right, throw away things you don't need. But like, that's a really cool thing to have kept.
And I said, Anne, you are an archivist's dream and an archivist's nightmare. Of course, that had to get, there was a limit to what I could do because something of that scope, really, you had to get computers involved at some point. And of course, at the time we were doing it, most of us still didn't have things like scanners and all that sort of stuff. I'm doing some of that stuff with the Blue Mitten records because I'm on the Blue Mitten board now. But I'm not sure who's doing what with archives now, but
they're resting comfortably over at the top of the chapter. At the moment, Marty. Well, actually, the one thing, archival thing that we're doing right now is we're starting to digitize all the old sound. That's
great.
So but the longer, I would put it to you this way, the longer we can't do all the regular stuff, the more of that stuff is going to get digitized because we have time to do it. So
absolutely,
yeah. Very much so.
I hate the reason that you have the time, but I'm glad you got the time because I remember seeing those stacks of reel-to-reel tapes in the archives and thinking these suckers are going to fall apart one of these days.
Well, yeah, that's the trick is that it won't last forever. So, but the trick about putting it, as you know, with archives, you've got to go through everything to see, is it good? Is it worth saving? So it's like double, triple the time with a recording. It's 2-3 listens, and then you've got to go through it again to digitize it. So
don't show him to Bunky. If he's not perfect, he'll want to.
No, well, he's been great. I've actually sent him as I find something that's interesting that he might be really curious about. I've sent him clips of it to be like, listen to this, And there's some stuff I usually send it to Bunky or to Andrew Howell, and we'll be like, and that's a good one to save on the computer and just let it rest there for historians 100 years from now. But there's some
after we're all dead.
yeah, that's right.
I was
that wee chorus back then, how they did.
Does he ever say there are some really good moments on this?
He does. He did say, he has said there, like you can, from time to time, there's some things that I know he'll be like, ooh, I know that's coming, but there's other stuff that is, I hate to say surprisingly good, but it's not really surprisingly good. It's just, it is as good as you remember. There's some stuff that's, and the chorus have heard some of this. There's some stuff that you think, ooh, that's not what I rememred. But okay.
Little door, yeah.
And recordings are honest. Like they don't hide flaws. So
Brutal.
I really want to ask you a little bit more about your time at Pfizer. So can you just pretend I don't know anything?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do there for like 30 years or however long you were there for?
I was there for 26 years.
26.
The same amount of time that I sang with Bunky. Incidentally, the thing that I had never forgiven him for when he retired was that he had not done the Bach B minor mass again.
That I know.
Fortunately, Andrew did it. But anyway, no, I came in originally this group called the Hospital Products Group. We were making things like biosensors, vascular grafts and stuff. Well, then they started cutting out some of the projects and really getting into where I felt that was not my expertise. So I switched into the animal health group. We were doing veterinary drugs, and it was basic research. Basically, we'd start thinking about what molecules might be good for, a particular antibacterial stuff and all that. And we'd come up with some targets, and then initially they'd hand me the targets and make these, and I'd say, okay. And, if I hit a snag, I'd look up how to do stuff in the literature. And if I hit a snag, I'd go to the boss and go, but and basically the older and more experienced I got, the more of my own planning and stuff that I did. But I was basically an individual contributor. I never supervised anybody, which was just fine with me. And I just like making things with my own hands, which is another reason I'm glad I didn't go back for the PhD. And then in 2003, they sent the animal health group out to Kalamazoo. And I didn't want to go to Kalamazoo, but fortunately, they eliminated a fair number of jobs, and one of them was mine. So I switched into human health at that point. That's okay. I like people too. And that's where I was all the way up until I got laid off in 2011. And when that happened, the package allowed me to get my full retirement. So basically, I just said, where do I sign? And it's funny, I knew I wouldn't miss all the corporate BS, but I thought maybe I'd miss the chemistry, but I haven't even missed that. It was time. It was time. So it's been 9.5 years now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some good chemistry on this community chorus show every week, though.
The molecules work. What was one of the more cool things you developed at Pfizer? Is there something?
Well, it's when we were in the animal health group. At first we were doing a lot of drugs for farm animals, and one of the needles you had to thread with that was that one of your competitors was the bullet. If it was too expensive for a farmer to cure his cow, he'd simply put it down.
Right.
Well, I never had any direct, I made compounds that went into these animals. Nothing I ever made went into a human being. I made some things or contributed to projects where they made some things that later went into human beings, but nothing I personally made, unless I accidentally inhaled some of it. It never went into a human being. But eventually, Pfizer decided they wanted to get out of the farm thing because, the concerns about feeding things to animals, antibiotics and all that to food animals. So they started concentrating more on cats and dogs. And of course, that was fine with me too. And some of the things I made did go into cats and dogs. But then, of course, when I went to cardiovascular metabolic diseases for people, then again, nothing I made went into people. But I can't say, I made that molecule that became that drug. I think very, very few people in pharmaceuticals can say that, because we make literally thousands of them.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff I did, did help us steer in a direction where they would eventually come up with something. And well, the same when I was at Roche, I was in the radioactive synthesis, when they'd get something that they wanted to test in animals where they needed to find the metabolites and stuff. And so we'd make it with a carbon-14 or a tritium label in it or something like that. And then they'd use it for testing. So I got to do a lot of chemistry, which was fun. But as far as the stuff with the vaccines and stuff like that, that was totally outside anything that I did. That's the biologist department, really.
Right. We have
Is there a sense of pride, though, Marty, when you hear that the Pfizer's done this vaccine that hopefully lots of people will be getting soon? Is the Pfizer pride there?
I keep hoping they'll get in touch with their retirees and say, "Hey guys, come on over. We'll give you some." So far, they haven't. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, by the time I left there, it had gotten corporatized to the point where I was just kind of, it sort of went from a company that discovered drugs to a company that maximized shareholder value. And I was kind of glad to get out of there. But now, that they're doing something good. Yeah, there's kind of a sense of pride that that's my old outfit.
Yeah.
And
well, they've been good. They've been good, as you know, philanthropically with the chorus for many years. That the match programs and grants and stuff like that, which has been great. So we always kind of look at Pfizer with a lot of awe and gratefulness. We also have at least two chorus families involved with Pfizer right now. One in biology and one on the human resources side of things. So
yeah, it's well, I think actually probably the reason that they asked me to be on the board was they thought that I might have contacts with important people at Pfizer. No, not when you're a lab rat. I've never hobnobbed with anybody in the front offices or anything, but it was. But I have to warn you, unfortunately, that as of the first of the year, they're cutting their retirees out of the program.
We've talked about that. But they have done us pretty good. So just going to shift here. So now you're in retirement. And you and Sue Bainbridge, who we talked about before, the wonderful Sue, who we invited on to be with you today, but we know Sue's a little too shy with these kind of things. So Sue, we love you. Just want you to know that too. She's been another wonderful Chorus of Westerly
absolutely
volunteer. We saw a picture of her just the other day of her and Ginny Wilkes back must be 25, 30 years ago, scraping paint off the doors at the Chorus building. There was so many things that made me nervous about that particular picture.
Yeah. I was just down the extension ladder for that picture. I didn't have the nerve to get. Well, I don't have good balance.
Well, she was up there. She was up there doing it.
Oh yeah.
But you and Sue have been doing. You've been doing some of your own. But you and Sue in particular have been doing a lot of crazy travel. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to? Some of the places you've gone in last couple of years?
Well, let's see. The last place that Susan and I went together, last fall, we went to Iceland for a week. And we really wanted to see the Northern Lights. She'll be watching this later, and she'll probably get really exasperated for me telling this story once again. But she went to Oberlin in Ohio for a couple of years, and she's 9 years older than I am. So she was in her freshman year in college when I was 9 years old, 16 miles away in my hometown. Obviously, we didn't know each other then. And she told me she came out of a practice room there one night, and there were the Northern Lights all over the place. Beautiful, really vivid. I was 9 miles away, 16 miles away, 9 years old, in bed asleep by that time. Mom and Dad were probably in the living room watching Jack Parr with the curtains closed. We never knew that was going on. And so she was in Ohio for 2 years and saw the Northern Lights. And I spent the first 22 years of my life there, and I never saw them. So I said, damn it, you owe me some Northern Lights. We went to Iceland and we saw them, but they were kind of dim. I want to try again sometime. So we went there.
You found your way to Antarctica too, right?
Oh yeah, I've actually been there twice.
Twice?
Yeah. Well, I went in 2016, the first time. I also went to South Georgia and the Falkland Islands. And then let's see, then I went to the Galapagos Islands. And then in 2018, December, actually, I missed Pops because of it that year. I went back to Antarctica. I wanted to see it at a different time in the season. And then I went to Norway and Svalbard, and then I went back to Patagonia, down in the south part of South America. And actually, that's where I was in March of this year. And we were on the water. We went to Cape Horn. We went to the lighthouse at the end of the world. We went to all sorts of places. But before we finished the trip, they closed the ports to cruise boats. So we never got to Torres del Paine National Park, which is where we were supposed to go. And we spent the next several days looking for some place that they were going to let us land so that we could get home. Finally got to the Falkland Islands. But anyway, I was supposed to go back to South Georgia and the Falklands this coming March, but that's been canceled. So for obvious reasons. So but I'm trying to do as much as I can while I'm still physically able to do it.
Yeah. That's really
That's amazing.
that is, I am always, frankly, Marty, amazed at your travels and just, I love hearing about it when you come back. They're just, you just seem to find a way to live life to its fullest and go to these places. And I think you know this, I love travel myself, but it's really made me think, okay, later in life, I want to do this. I want to do that. So I love hearing about it.
We'll start saving now. It's not cheap, but I'm single. I don't have any descendants. So my father always said my last check should bounce.
I like it.
I
like it. All right, Marty, are you ready to go? We'll go a little rapid pace here. Are you ready to play the lightning round with us?
Will we?
Okay, Ben, let's do the lightning round. All right, before we start, Andrew, Amy, and Michael, do you have your own questions? Okay, good.
Yes,
so,
I do.
Marty, this is how it's going to work. We're just going to ask you questions. You got to think of a quick response. And then once I think the answer is satisfactory, I'll move it on to the next person to ask you the question, okay? There's no right or wrong answers because they're questions to you. All right, you ready? Here we go. Question number 1. What was your favorite cathedral, abbey, or big church in England to sing in?
Actually, my very favorite one was Ely. And I actually sang there with Anglican singers. I didn't sing there with the chorus of Westerly because I was out on the first tour.
Well, a lot of people on the chorus say Ely was their favorite on the first tour too. Yeah. So, all right, Andrew, number 2.
What was one of your weirdest Ogons or chorus volunteer jobs you ever had?
The weirdest. Oh, that's a tough one. That's really probably the weirdest volunteer job I think I ever had was dancing the tarantella on a flatbed truck during the fundraiser for the Italy trip. And believe me, you don't want to see me dance.
Yes, we do. We need to bring that back.
Yeah.
The show we do for the chorus.
Was the truck moving?
Yeah.
And it was moving.
Safety third.
Do you remember that,
Michael,
Amy?
number 3. Michael Freitas, you asked number 3.
True or false, Marty? The Carmina Burana is overrated.
True.
Wow.
Wow. There you go. All right, Amy, number 4.
What was the best part of the Peasants' Feast?
The best part of the Peasants' Feast, probably when it was over. It was.
That's okay.
Yeah, when it's finally, we pulled it off again.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's so funny. I suddenly have a picture in my mind of as a kid, as an actor in 12th Night, coming up the stairs. Back when you used to do, you have to go outside the building, come up the stairs to the green room. Opening the door of the green room is Marty seeing you there in your Peasants' serving costume, like, oh, thank God it's over. It's funny. I can imagine that moment for you before we went on for the 8:00 show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, Michael, you got the number 5.
Marty, if you had to introduce someone to choral music and could play only one work for them or one piece of music other than the Bach B minor mass, what would it be?
I think it might be the Brahms Requiem.
Yeah. Good
choice. I like it. Okay, Andrew, let's ask you your question.
Marty, how many flamingos do you own?
Let's see. Probably of the ones that are actually discrete flamingos, I probably own at least 10. But I also have a shower curtain cover at home in one of my bathrooms that's covered with the flamingos. And I've got several flamingo Christmas tree ornaments, of course, most of which had been turned into cat toys at this point. But people are always giving me flamingos and
Party cats.
Yep. I get flamingos and now penguins from people a lot.
Okay,
I
Amy,
expected at least that many.
Amy's up next. Go.
Okay, I know that for a long, long time, the Bach B minor was like your white whale of a piece. It was the piece that you so very much wanted to do, and I missed it too, joining in '85, and so we've both done it. Is there a new piece that has replaced it as your new white whale?
Well, probably my white whale, I think, would be the Britain War Requiem, but I don't think we'll ever do it because I don't think it'll fit in the hall. And I also would love to do the first major work I ever did with a chorus in New Jersey was the Rachmaninoff Bells. It was absolutely fabulous, but it's also an absolute monster orchestra. I think we had 10 double basses in the orchestra. There's no way in hell we'd ever fit that into the hall, but I'd love to have another crack at that before I die.
Pretty good. Okay, I'm taking notes. All right, Michael, you're next.
So I think for those watching, I think Amy's was a little frozen, but she's also wearing a cat shirt, which segues into my question. Marty, how many cats do you currently have?
I have 2.
And two-part question, how many cat shirts do you have?
Oh, I don't have that many fingers.
Well, good for you. I've only got 4, so there's a ways to go.
Yeah, I probably got at least 6 or 7.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, Andrew Ledastri, next.
Oh, my turn. Marty, tell us an interesting fact about Pfizer that you don't think we would know.
Interesting fact about Pfizer that I don't think that you would know. It's well, I don't know, maybe you would know this, but I'd say by and large, a lot of scientists really are as geeky as everybody thinks they are.
Okay.
And they have a theater group.
We have a theater group. We learned that too, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
The theater group at Roche, like I said, I never got involved in the one at Pfizer, and they're gone now anyway.
Right.
They closed them down. But, we really had a fabulous time with the Roche players. We had so much fun.
Okay, Amy, you're the next one.
All right, what is a major work that you sang with a chorus that you'd be happy if we never, ever took it off the shelf again?
Carmina Burana.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, outside of France, because we're planning a tour de France, and any place the chorus is already toured, if you were helping me and Andrew plan a new chorus tour, where should we go? Don't worry about money.
Well, it's someplace that we never could go, but I would love to take the chorus to New Zealand. That was one of the most fabulous places I have ever been, but unfortunately their summer is our winter. And of course it's also enormously expensive to get there, so we couldn't do it, but that's
Never say never.
Yeah.
You never say never. They seem to be able to. They've done pretty well with the current medical situation. So maybe we just move the chorus down there. Who knows? All right, and this is my last one for you before we wrap this up. Marty, what is the best Star Trek show?
The best Star Trek show is Star Trek: The Next Generation, because I am really in love with Captain Picard. I know I'm bigger than he is, but
no, you that's fine. No, you hit the. I was going to say correct. I would have ended the call right here and there if I heard anything else. All right, that's been the lightning round. Well, Marty, thank you for doing this and for joining us for the show tonight here. And just as we wrapped up, a couple things that I just want you to know is that the 4 of us here, and Andrew too, we are some of your biggest fans. As Andrew said before, we have one of the reasons we particularly when we were talking about who could we bring on the show, we wanted to talk to you was we all love listening to you talk. I think that's one thing. You are one of the most fascinating people that we know.
You're very unusual then.
No, really. But you're to us, you have, I mean, when Andrew thought about it, it's like you kind of joined this little project at the same time we did, but from a very different place and not coming through the system, if you will. But yet you've displayed so much loyalty to the organization and goodness and time and energy and given so much to it that it's, it's good for us to hear what you have to say, and it's good for everyone else to understand out there what it's meant to you. And I guess that's sort of where I want to close, is that if you and I were out, you'd never met me before, and I was some interviewer from a New York magazine and saying, Marty, you've devoted your life to these people. Can you tell us a little bit of why it's been so important and really what it's meant to you?
Well, it's been family to me, since most of my family is out in Ohio. And really, from the time I moved to New Jersey, I was pretty much solo. And, I don't have children. I don't have grandchildren. And it really was and I remember thinking very early on when I was watching you guys in the chorus, and I was trying to think, what would my life have been like if I had been born in Westerly, Rhode Island? Because I would have been 8 years old in 1959, just the right age to get in there with the thing. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing at all wrong with the life I've had. I've enjoyed it enormously, but I think I would have had a whole different life if I had had a chance to be a chorus kid. I certainly would have done much more music much earlier, and have gotten mentoring, which, I wouldn't have been 41 years old when I took my first voice lesson. Incidentally, Susan Bainbridge was very influential in that. She's the one who convinced me that you didn't have to be a soloist to take voice. And I think my voice lessons are the reason that I'm pushing 70 and I'm still a first soprano. But it really, I saw what you guys had in the chorus, and thought, this was a wonderful thing, and I wanted to really do what I could to, have it be there for other kids, since I didn't have any of my own.
We're very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, I think, really, I actually described you recently as we're all Marty's biggest fan. Look at that right there.
Oh.
As I said, Marty's kind of like one of my aunts. That's how I look at her. That's how I kind of look at you, Marty, as like an aunt. And I really do mean it when I say, like, we kind of adore you, and you have always been sort of a rock star to us. We love your cat shirts. We love your fun stories. We love that. I feel, Marty, I always know what you're feeling. And I love that. Like, I feel like you're comfortable enough, like, around the chorus. When Andrew was talking about at 12th night, to see you like, oh, it's over. It's like, I like that you're comfortable enough around all of us. That's why I've always kind of thought of you as like family. Like, yeah, okay, I get that. But thank you for everything that you've done for all of us in the chorus of Westerly. It has meant a great, great deal to us. And
thank you guys. It's so reassuring to see that there's a younger generation who's going to keep this puppy going, It makes a lot of difference.
We appreciate it. So, well, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you at our next virtual whatever the heck we're supposed to do on here. Okay. And to Amy and to Andrew and Michael, again, Marty's biggest fans. And on behalf of Andrew Howell, thank you all so much for joining us this week. Again, thank you, Marty. Thank you, all the co-hosts. Thank you to everyone else out there. Also, Marty mentioned she's on the Blue Mitten board. So again, go check out the Blue Mitten on Main Street there, right next to Midway Pizza. You can get some, it's a Dick's World of Wines is on Plaza and Midway, so you can get some beer, you can get some pizza, and you can go buy some nice holiday gifts, and it all supports the chorus of Westerly. And Marty's done a lot of work with that group too. So again, on behalf of Andrew Howell, who's not here, but Aimée Blanchette, Andrew Ledestre, Mike Freitas, and our guest, Marty Minich, we wish you a wonderful week. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next show.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.